But here's the kicker, okay? Do I sound insane? Here's the kicker, okay? What's up, boys and girls? I cannot seem to get this. The optimal health span routine is the routine that optimizes athletic performance hypothesis out of my head. I keep thinking about it, and I don't think it's correct, but I figured it would be interesting to work through this problem anyway. So you heard what the hypothesis is, and it's basically there's a big industry in biohacking, longevity, health span guys that are telling you tips and tricks for how to, get the longest health span. And health span is just quality lifespan. So quality years of life. And I disagree a lot with these people, and I think they focus a lot on unimportant stuff. And my basic premise is that it's probably the case that in order to optimize health span, you optimize long-term athletic performance. So if this is going to be a video series, I don't know if it is, I figure we just theory craft this a bit. That's a bit cringe to say, but go through and work through some ideas here about what exactly these terms entail. If I'm feeling a bit feisty, we might look at some evidence, think through some counterexamples, and things of that nature. So, first things first, we should probably parse the hypothesis itself. I already told you what health span was. It's just quality years of life. It's not just how long you're able to live, it's how long you're able to live and uphold a certain quality. So for most people that includes physical and cognitive abilities similar to that you have when you're younger. So being able to do things on your own, not being bedridden, preferably not being in a state of disease or cognitive inabilities, dementia, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, metabolic function disorders, as well as things that affect seniors related to bone density. Seniors fall and break their hips all the time. You don't want to have weak bones. You want to be strong. You want to be able to walk around, carry groceries, play with grandkids, great-grandkids, all that stuff, okay? That's what we mean by health span. What do we mean by long-term athletic performance? This is an interesting question. And this kind of sent me into a spiral, I guess you'd say. I went a little bit crazy. I don't think long-term is too difficult. If you just take athletic performance, that term, if you take it for granted and just whatever you envision in your mind here, athletic performance, think of that, and apply long-term to it. It just means the ability to have athletic performance across an entire lifetime. So a high athletic performance across an entire lifetime. So we're not necessarily talking about peak athletic performance at some point in time. We're talking about average athletic performance across a lifetime, which I think you have to admit, if you're going to have a long health span, you must have a long-term athletic performance average rating. It's high. Not necessarily peak performance, but the average should be high, just because you're maintaining a level of athletic performance for such a long time as compared to many athletes who sort of peak and then quickly deteriorate. Okay? That was long term. Are you bored yet? Please don't tell me you're bored, okay? Athletic performance. This is the one I am least confident in, but I would like to set forth a model of athletic performance that may be interesting and also possibly an interesting way of thinking about athletic performance optimization. So first of all, let's see if we can't define athletic performance. In a previous video that was sort of on the same topic as this, but more of a widespread thoughts on the subject, I had mentioned a athletic performance visualization, thinking of it as like a polygon spider diagram, skill tree. You've probably seen these where you've got different nodes that represent skills, and then you sort of can drag those up or down axes to create sort of a spider web or like a polygon, which represents a total skill base. And I was thinking about that, and I think there's a few that no one will argue about on this. Athletic performance must at least include strength, speed, or power, say speed/power, and endurance. Those are the athletic performance big three. Okay? If you disagree with that, let me know, and I'll think about it some more. What else could you argue for here? Well, originally I was thinking something like recovery ability would be factored into this, or skill, so athletic skill. However, I don't think that should factor into the total. That shouldn't be its own node. Those are not expressions of athletic ability. They are actually ceiling limiter or expanders. So you've got your polygon here, right? Think about the three nodes that we already said: speed, strength, and endurance. Each of these has an axis, right? So you've got three axes, one going straight up, one going down here, one going down there. How far up you can drag any given axis is based on your individual skill component in that category. So if you get much better at deadlifting, your strength will your strength potential will be much greater, right? Or if you get much better sprinting form, your speed capacity will increase. Doesn't automatically raise the ability, but it does automatically raise the ceiling. Okay. Another one that is a bit easier to think of is genetics, and these are static, and these come inborn, right? Genetics are a static ceiling, I believe, on different categories. So your genetics will determine how high a given skill will go, in addition to recovery and all those other things. Recovery is a bit of an interesting one. And I believe that better recovery, you could say that it raises your ceiling. But you also have to think of recovery as something that influences all three simultaneously. And also, you've only really got so many recovery points based upon what your current recovery routine is. So if you've got 50 recovery points, you could put all 40 into, you could put 40 into strength and then 10 into the other two in some way, some configuration. But you couldn't put any more into that. That's the maximum you recover, and any more than that actually doesn't improve and possibly reduces the magnitude in any given direction. So that is a complexity in the model that I can't seem to quite wrap my head around how you would model it, but you certainly do have just a number of recovery points, and if you get more recovery points, you can put more effort into raising the magnitude of a given category of athletic performance. There's a few more complications with the model. It is the case that the three axes are not independent, which is a bit counterintuitive and kind of makes this model a bit stupid. But there's some mechanism by which they interact with one another and artificially or directly raise each other's ceilings. I won't say they necessarily directly raise the absolute value, but if you raise your endurance value, I would argue that you probably also raise your strength and whatever the other one is. I'm rambling here a bit. You raise the ceilings of the other two, okay? But here's the kicker, okay? Do I sound insane? Here's the kicker, okay? As you approach the ceiling in any given axis, the rate of growth slows, and the amount of recovery points you must put into increasing or maintaining that skill goes up. That is another point of interplay. So just because you raise your strength ceiling, which also raises your endurance ceiling, that doesn't automatically increase the absolute value of the other one. It only increases the ceiling, and you may not have enough recovery points to actually benefit from that ceiling, okay? So that is to say, specializing into a single axis is not necessarily optimal. What is optimal? Good question. Now, as we just went over, this model is very complicated, okay? There's interplay here that is not captured by a simple polygon, right? There are relationships amongst things that are either impossible to represent using something this simple, or you would just have to, do something crazy, okay? To maximize the area of a polygon, you want it to be regular in shape. What does that mean? It means the side of the polygon, every side should be the same, every angle should be the same. We're assuming the angles are all the same. So to maximize athletic performance, if we can come to some agreement that it is something like a polygon, then I don't think it's unreasonable to say that athletic performance is maximized when you've got a perfect triangle. Okay? Now that's not to say that is maximized athletic performance. So you've maximized all three skills. Obviously, that's not what most athletes want to do. So a power lifter doesn't care too much about maximizing athletic ability. They only want to maximize in the strength direction and then do as much as is needed in the other two directions to allow that ceiling and that absolute value to go up. But my argument is, if you want to be an optimal health span athlete, you must equally balance all three things. And so I think that the goal of a optimal health span routine would ideally balance these three categories like that. I have no idea if that was helpful at all. Like I said, these are the theory crafting episodes. Maybe I'll have a more sophisticated model at some point in the future. I don't know if I will. I really want this model to be simple. I want it to be a simple definition of athletic performance and what optimal athletic performance looks like. I don't think that was it. But I will definitely continue to think about this, and I think the next few episodes may be just some evidence for why focusing on athletic performance, strength, endurance, and speed/power are actually the primary things that you need to worry about when we're talking about health span. Or alternatively, we completely disprove that because one of those three things does not mitigate some major risk factor of poor health span down the road. That is yet to be seen. So I don't know when I'm going to put this video up, if at all. I think that was probably, you'd have to be a real freak to watch this whole video. But if you enjoyed it, please let me know if you think I'm insane or if you think I might be on to something. And also let me know if you'd be interested in more videos along this line. I know I got a good amount of interest on the last one of a similar topic, so we'll see how it goes. All right, boys, I'm gonna go train. You better go train too and eat your broccoli. All right, peace out.